Hello, everybody. I'm getting on here. Sister Judy Cardoza was and Brother Jose was. We were attempting to do a Facebook Live together. So I believe I sent a request to her. So I'm praying I can get her added on here. And let's see what happens. There she is. Says adding Sister Judy. Says it's adding you, sis. So we'll see what happens here. Hopefully we can get this worked out to where we can actually get this done. But appreciate them inviting me, um, uh, allowing me to be a part, and let's see if they can get them added on here. Says it's adding her, so we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm not supposed to be the one on this end, so it's a little different for me. But I hope everybody's doing good. Appreciate y'all. Hey, Brother Ernie, Sister Michelle, Nancy. Hey, brother, how you doing, Brother Jordan? Praying I can get Sister Judy on here and Brother Jose so I can talk to him for a minute here in a second. Try to add them again. Add them again here. But let's see. See if I'm getting y'all on here. This has been a chore, isn't it? could be this operator error trying to approve here. Should have been approved, but hopefully we'll be able to get this worked out. I'd like to talk to them. I appreciate this family. They were saying so many nice things about me on theirs that I was starting to retreat, but hopefully I can get them added on here. I keep hitting approve, but they seem to be approving them. Maybe it's my phone, not theirs. Add. You keep saying adding, but it's not adding. The meltdown. Hey, Brother Ashley, good to see you, brother. We are doing wonderful. We're doing amazing. I see you, Sister Judy. Praying for you, brother. Yeah, I know, sis. Sister Judy said this is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's technology. When you add a hillbilly with technology, this is the outcome you get typically. And I'm not talking about you, Sister Judy. I'm talking about me. Even though it'll apply to both. Hey, Sister Judy Kegley. Good to see you too. Good to see you. Glad everybody's kind of hanging with us for a second. It says it's adding. I don't know what that's all about. It's showing it's adding, but it's not bringing anybody on. I don't know. I don't know what the problem could be. But hey, Sister Diane, thank you. Trying to add again. They keep sending the requests, so it's we're attempting. We're trying here. But it's good to see. Hey, Sister Nancy. It's good to see you, Sister Judy Kegley. It's been a while. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm a hillbilly too, Sister Judy. That's okay. It's showing it's adding. I don't know. Maybe it's my phone or just I don't know. What's up, Brother Glenn or Sister Mandy Shockley, whichever one it is. There's Brother Sister Inman, Sister Faye, It's moving up a little bit. Ken Packard, my old boss. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Sister Brittany, Sister Brianna, good to see you all. What we're trying to do is we're trying to add a Sister Ryan Davidson, old friend from way back. But Sister Judy was wanting to add me and I guess talk to me about a little bit about my testimony. And we're trying to add each other here, but it's not working out. Hopefully it does. Hey, Sister Faye. And tried another time, but Sister Judy was so kind, and Brother Jose was so kind to ask me, and I appreciate the spirit of what they're trying to do here. Hey, Autumn, Brother Jason Wilson, but appreciate what they're trying to do. It's just doesn't seem like technology is on our side tonight, so see what we can do. See if I can add them again. Try to add them again. Now, send an invitation. We'll see what happens. We'll see what come on. What's up, Brother Ern? Let me see. Approve. It is attempting to add again. Yeah, if it doesn't add you this time, maybe I'll just kind of go into it. It's a little different than what I was planning, how I was planning on doing it, but if nothing else, I'll just go ahead. If it doesn't add you this time, we'll just go ahead. Brother Jose is just telling me to go ahead and tell him. Maybe y'all show up here in a second. We'll see. But what they invited me on here for was to just share a little bit of my testimony. I might be able to be a little bit more articulate. Yeah, we need Ernie to jump on here and do this, but I might have been able to be a little bit more articulate with maybe if it was specific questions or whatever. But to go back, I tend to be kind of long-winded, so I don't want to be too long-winded on that. But for those that don't know, and most everybody on here knows me, but Brother Rob Merrill, I'm a preacher of the gospel. Let me try to add her one more time. Approve, add. It's saying it's add, and I'll keep trying while we're doing this. But I'm a preacher, and could never imagine in my life that in my past, I never imagined that my life would turn out to be the way it is, and I would be able to experience the wonderful things. How you doing, brother? Miss you too, man. Miss you too, Ryan. But never thought I would be able to experience the wonderful things I've got to experience in my life. The Bible says in Psalm 90 and verse 9 that we spend our years as a tale that is told. And everybody's life tells a story, and I'm no different. And there's a lot of other people that could tell a little bit more riveting story than what I have. But I'm thankful for where God has brought me from. I just to kind of sum it up, and I don't know if I'll get to add them in here or not. It says they're adding, but we'll see if it happens or not. But just kind of to sum it up, and maybe we'll get a chance to do it later on in the future. But I started out, never imagined I would be doing today what I'm doing. If you would have told me when I was a young man that I would be doing what I'm doing today, I never would have ever believed it. God and ministry was the furthest things from my mind. I never imagined I would be in the place, being able to experience the things that I've experienced. And I'm not saying I'm any great man or done anything great. Brother and Sister Cardoza said a little bit, was very nice. But I'm thankful for the experiences that I do have. But starting out in my life, I never thought I would be here doing what I'm doing. When I started out, my goals and my aim was really, just fleshly and worldly. I was pursuing a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot of experiences. And that was basically the theme of my life. I started out, with alcohol influence in my life when I was very young. Not so much just, any, different than any other, kind of worldly influence. But I started out with that, being around alcohol and seeing, the joy that it seemed to bring people in their life. So I was kind of drawn to that when I was a young man. And so, I used to sneak around, and I would never been allowed to drink when I was young. Never would have been, it never would have been okay. Had my dad ever caught me doing that, he would have killed me. But, or my mom or anybody, it was one of those things where you got to be an adult. And if you're an adult, then it's acceptable, but it's not when you're young. But I used to admire, different aspects of my surroundings and the joy that people seem to get from it, and the excitement. And, it seemed like it was really fun and something to enjoy. So, I just out of curiosity as a young man, just began to sneak around, and, I would, just drink and, sneak in the fridge when nobody's home, and, taste alcohol and different things like that. And I remember the first time I tried it, it was absolutely disgusting. And it wasn't something that I enjoyed the first time I tried it, but, the rush of the emotion of it, the rush of adrenaline I got just by, I wasn't allowed to do, the rush is really what kept me going back. So, you try it, and it's that acquired taste, and then all of a sudden you start craving it. And that was where I was. I started craving it, very young, started craving it. And then, the older I got, my early teen years, the more access I had to it, you could kind of go over to somebody's house, and, it was a little bit different atmosphere there, and you had more access to it, or was able to buy it, or you found places that would sell to minors, and so it just picked up from there. And it literally got to where, I craved alcohol, and it was something that I wanted to experience. And you just kind of move on from there. And, the other things you experience with is, cigarettes and tobacco. And then, depending on the atmosphere, once you start getting to a more, party-like atmosphere, you're, smoking pot, and then eventually you're, taking, prescription pills. And there were times that I'd taken stuff, I didn't even know what it was, just take it just to see what it would do. And I look back on the mercy that God had on me in those times. And, you're just chasing feelings, chasing experiences, chasing things in your life that you think are going to add meaning and purpose. And one thing I started discovering, the deeper I got down into it, the further I got along, is that, it was very empty. And you could experience all those things. You could, it wasn't nothing, on a weekend out at a, partying somewhere, that you could just, drink, several beers, and you got a fifth of whiskey, and, and I was sometimes, skipping school and going out and doing those types of things, and just, just living what I thought was the appropriate life of a young man. And, doing all kinds of other things, but, just kind of leave it at that. But chasing experiences, you're just chasing things in life that you think are, going to add some type of excitement or meaning. And you really start to crave that, and I found myself, starting to, crave those things through the week. When I wasn't doing those things, I just would crave them and want them. And it was in the middle of all that, the more I experienced and the more that I chased, the more I began to realize that it was empty. It was a dead end. And then you start looking around at your life, and you're like, is this it? Is this the only experience I'm going to have that's going to give me any type of emotional rush or any type of feeling? And that's really what I was after. It was just after that rush and that high. Like I said, the whole, what kept me, drinking, aside from the disgusting taste of the first Pabst Blue Ribbon I ever drank, was was the rush that I got from it. And but after a while, when the rush begins to die, and you kind of you've tried it and experienced it numerous times, you begin to think, this is all it is. So I'm failing in school. I'm doing horrible in school. I had played baseball for a few years and really enjoyed that. And then I got so, kind of wrapped up in that life, and the other extracurricular activities that I was doing, that I lost interest in anything but that. And so it just became about partying and spending time with friends. And I had a lot of close friends that were very close. They were a lot like family. and I enjoyed being around them. They were, very fun to be around, and we were very close, and like brothers in a lot of ways, and those were nice. And I can't say I didn't enjoy, the camaraderie and the friendship. It was wonderful, in that time. And it's always good to have friends, and it was good back then, and I really enjoyed that time. And but all the extra things, all the rest of the things that I was experiencing, I was just finding out that it was real empty, and it was really, you're seeing that it's more destructive than it is anything to your life. You're looking at it and you're like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be. I'm failing in school. I can't. I lose interest in everything I do besides this. So what it really is, the need to try to go further. It's just it's empty. Is this all it is? And you just become depressed. And I got so down and so broken by the hopelessness of it. And I was like, I'm going to be a loser. Living on my mom and dad's couch because, I have no ambition, no desire, and I recognize that about myself. I've seen that. I keep trying to add Sister Judy while I'm talking, but and I recognize that about myself. I recognize that the direction I was going was dead end, and it was hopeless. And so I became very depressed, very angry, I would say. And I would even venture to say that some of my friends, that I spent time with in that time were probably, would probably tell you, I would have outbursts of anger. I was a very angry person in a lot of ways. And I have a lot of friends from my past, even on here that would probably testify to the fact that, I would respond, very harshly and negatively sometimes. I pretty much had a joyous countenance, but at the same time could lose my temper, fairly fast. And but I just got angry. I got hopeless. I knew that this is all it is, and I'm going to be a loser. And and I didn't want to accept that as my future. So I got to where I would kind of test the limits a little bit. Suicide became something that I was kind of fantasizing about a little bit. I would test the limits with maybe with a knife or something sharp, and see if I was capable of hurting myself. And I have a couple scars here and there on my body from that. Just trying to test the limits to see, what would if I could actually do it. And there was a couple times I could actually bring myself to draw blood, and found that was somewhat of a kind of a stress relief. And but it finally came to a head, and I'll kind of close it out here because I tend to go long-winded, and I know people lose interest pretty fast. But I, it got to the point where, I'm thinking, if that's all my life is going to be, do I want to even live? And suicide became a very, very attractive option. And I remember specifically, it was one night, specifically that stood out in my mind, and I've testified about numerous times. And it's really kind of always stood out in my mind. My mother and father was down in Kentucky, and they were down in Kentucky, spending time. We have a property down there, and they was down there, and I was able to stay in for the weekend. I wasn't interested in really going down. I was, kind of mid-teens, and I remember going upstairs, and I sat in my mother and father's room, and there's a 38 special over off to the side, and I picked it up and I just held it. And everything within me, I was miserable, so miserable. And I couldn't sleep at night. It was like I was surrounded by darkness, just absolute darkness. And I sat there in that chair, in a chair in my mother and father's room, a chair that I used to sit in, when I would go up there and I would eat dinner up there or whatever sometimes. And they had a television in their room, and I would just sit there, and I'm sitting there and I'm just holding this gun in my hand. And everything on the inside of me wanted to die. I was hopeless on the outside, hopeless on the inside. I didn't see any future in the life that I was living. And I sat there with that gun, and the entire time I'm just wanting to die. On the inside of my heart, wanting to die. Just did not want to live anymore. And as I sat there and I was really contemplating this, I remember my mom had been saved for a long time and had really been praying for me heavily through this time. She had, been serving God and was a big believer in prayer. And she even had my name in a prayer box at the church that she was attending at the time, which happened to be the church that I got saved in later. And I sat there and everything on the inside of me wanted to die. I had a lot of people witnessing to me. My brother-in-law, Dean Howard, was witnessing to me. My sister Denise spent a lot of time witnessing to me. My family was just, the family that had given their life to the Lord and God had delivered them was really just spent a lot of time working on me. And I'm sitting there, and in my mind, when I'm wanting to do all this, there was this voice that just seemed to overpower all my thoughts. Every thought that I had, it just seemed like this voice overpowered it. And it was a voice of my mom, and it was God speaking in a familiar way. And the voice spoke to me in my heart, my mind, and said, if you do this, there's no more chances. It's over with. The door's shut. The opportunity is gone. It's dead. And you're never going to get another chance again. And that weighed on my mind and my heart. And I'm thinking in my mind, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to continue to go on like this anymore. I want to die. But the voice that was speaking in my mind was telling me, if you do this, that's it. It's final. The door's shut. You'll never have a chance to make this right. You'll never have a chance to fix this. And I was so torn on the inside and, began to weep. And it was the voice of my mom that, God speaking through the voice of my mom that saved me. A lot of people say, you can't scare people into heaven. And the only thing that kept me from going to hell was the fear of hell that night. That's the only thing that kept me from going to hell. I could have just as easily lifted that gun and blew my brains out, and that would have been it. Any opportunity I would have had after that was gone. I wouldn't be sitting here preaching in prisons with Sister Bonnie Keith, and I wouldn't be have had the opportunity to preach in the nursing homes or the children's homes or the psychiatric hospital where we're going to be going, or preaching on the streets to the drug dealers and the prostitutes. And I never would have gotten those. I would never have met my children, my sons. I would have never met my wife. I would have eliminated any chance I had of my life getting better, and it would have only gotten worse. And that night, it was the fear of hell that kept me out of hell. The Bible says, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. And that night I was persuaded. I quit. I laid it down, walked away, couldn't sleep at all. And then the first chance I got to go to church, I went with my brother-in-law and my sister, and I sat there in the pew at church at this Pentecostal church in Farmersville, Ohio. And I remember the Spirit of God moved so strong, and the Holy Ghost was moving, and the power of God just fell in that place. And my brother-in-law looked back at me, and he told me, he said, I'm sitting there and I'm under this conviction, I'm fighting back tears. And he said, if you go up there, he said, Jesus he'll forgive you. He can change everything. And I sat there and I told him, no, I said, I'm good. I refused originally. And then I remember when he turned around, I just bowed my head and I said, God, I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, if you can. Him turn around and ask me again. It was no sooner than that got out of my mouth that man of God turned around and he grabbed my hand and he said, Rob, he said, if you go down there, he said, Jesus can change everything. And I got out of the pew and I walked down to the altar, and I remember I knelt down and I felt all these hands just on my back. And it was praying and calling out to God, and they were, it was just love all around me. It was just love. And I wept so deeply. And I wept for what I felt like was an eternity. I don't know how long it was exactly, but it felt like an eternity. I wept and I wept. And I remember when I got up, I was free. That's what I remembered the most, is that when I got up, I was not the same person I was. My sister came over to me and she asked me, she said, how do you feel? And I'd never read 2 Corinthians 5:17 in my life. I never knew any type of Bible verses whatsoever. And I said, I feel like a new man. I said, I feel like a new man. It was just a few minutes in an altar. Jesus just lifted the yoke of sin and the burden of sin and the bondage of sin. He lifted it off of my shoulders, and he delivered me, and he set me free, and he changed me, and he made me a new man. And if there's anything that I could, kind of try to get across to you this evening, and I apologize for being so lengthy. Like I said, Sister Judy should have been the one asking the questions, but if there's anything that I could let you know today, is that, the world has a lot of options. If you want an option, if you want something, the world has it. But the only thing that the world doesn't have is an answer. That's it. You can do drugs, you can drink as much alcohol as you want, you can, go around and be immoral as much as you want. You can do whatever you want, but there is no answer to any of that. And there's a lot of people that'll sit and they'll listen to a preacher tell them that, and they know deep down within inside that it's not, there isn't an answer there. There's no, they've done it. They've seen where it leads. They've seen how shallow and empty it is, and that, you can get high one night and you get drunk one night, you're going to wake up, you're going to feel the exact same way. There's no answer. And that's why so many people do it and do so many things, in excess, because they're thinking that if they can just do it enough, that maybe it'll fix it, and it never will. And I'm also here to tell you that if you're sick of the way you're living your life, if you're sick of the way you feel, if you're sick of the pain that you're experiencing as a result of sin, if you're sick of the shame of it because you're experiencing guilt, if you're living apart from Jesus Christ and you're living in sin, you're experiencing guilt in your life. And I walked down to that altar with some of the heaviest amount of guilt I've ever experienced in my life. But when I got up, when I called out to him, and when he washed me, and when he lifted that burden, I got up and I was free from all the guilt. I mean, it wasn't like, I just went in and I signed a church, book, and now I'm a member, and now I'm a Christian. I'm saying I'm a Christian. That wasn't the way it was. How it was for me, when I got up off the altar, I physically felt forgiven. It was an inward forgiveness that I felt, a physical forgiveness that I experienced. And you can experience that today too. If you need forgiveness, if you need help, if you need mercy, if you need freedom, Jesus Christ is your answer. The Bible says that neither is there salvation in any other, for there's none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Choose you this day who you will serve. If you yield your life to Jesus Christ and you surrender your life to him, he'll change you forever. I want to say I appreciate Sister Judy and Brother Jose for allowing me to get on here and do this. And I'm sorry it didn't work out the way that we wanted it to, but I'm very grateful for this and the vision of it and the spirit behind it. And I just want to let them know how much I love them, let you all know how much I love you guys. And I'm so grateful for everything that the Lord has done. God bless you.